Welcome back. This is Steph from Cold-Blooded Freaks, and today we're going to be showing you what we believe are the top 5 reptiles that are going to increase in value for the 2025 season. To start the episode, I'm going to show off one of my favorite little Urodactylodes agricolae. This girl has been with me for 10 years. And I honestly feel that these guys are super underrated, but when I first got her, she was growing in popularity, and now 10 years later, they have kind of diminished on their popularity, but I still think that they should be rated higher because they're just adorable. They're very slow moving, their care is super easy, and they're just very adorable little creatures. As we go through the top 5, I'm going to have her accompany me for this. Starting off at number 5 is Stroerciliaris, or spiny tail geckos. I think that they're super underrated. They have these beautiful colorations that they tend to display more on their tails, whereas males and females do look a little bit different, but they are definitely gaining popularity. I see more and more people interested in them, and I'm actually starting to see some of them for sale at reptile shows, which I haven't in the past. We are actually hoping to produce some Stroerciliaris of our own. We have a pair, a 1.1 group that we have gotten some eggs from, so we're hoping to see what the future holds for them. They are very easy to care for. We feed ours a mix of crickets and dubia roaches, and their enclosure is quite neat. You can have a bunch of twigs and sticks. They're more of a desert species. They like it hot, but not too hot, so you have to have a basking spot and UV. You'll be able to display them, but they're not really up for much handling time. They rather just kind of hang out and do their own thing, but handling them, they actually can squirt a goo out of their tail, so you probably don't want to handle them as much or scare them. But they are very neat, and I do think that this year that they're going to increase in value, and that hopefully we have some more colorations and patterns that are starting to come out. And now we're moving on to number 4, which I believe is actually going to be some high-end ball pythons. I think that a lot of recessive genes in these animals, when you have one recessive gene and another recessive gene and another recessive gene, people tend to be buying them very quickly recently, and I've noticed that. I think that is going to continue for the year of 2025. I'm excited to see where it goes, because historically, the ball python industry does go through peaks and valleys, and we've been a little bit on a lull lately, so I do think that it's about to go up with some of the new genes that have been released, and I'm very excited to see how this year goes. Moving on to number 3. I believe that frogs are actually going to take off this year. I've seen a lot more interest in different types of frogs, like the poison dart frogs and even tree frogs. The reason I think that they are becoming more popular is actually because of the bioactive enclosures that you can set up for them, which can be absolutely beautiful. There is some gorgeous plants that you can put in with your frogs that the frogs can actually climb on and can hold the frog. And you can also have very cool structures and stuff like that in your bioactive enclosures for your dart frogs as well. So I do think that those guys will actually increase in sales this year, and possibly even in value. One of the other benefits with frogs is that their care, for the most part, is pretty easy. They're not necessarily a species or animals that you want to hold a lot, because of you can have chemicals and other items on your hands that can affect them. But just to have a display animal that you can have in a beautiful enclosure, I think is very appealing to a lot of people in the pet trade. And with that, that makes me move on to number 2, which is leaf-tail geckos. Leaf-tail geckos, there is a bunch of different ones out there, and they can be super neat. The one that I find most interesting personally is mossy leaf-tail geckos. Their colors are absolutely beautiful, and there's a lot of different patterns that are a little bit different now that are popping out. So we have some people that are still actually selling wild caught ones, And then there are more and more people that are breeding them, so you can get captive bred ones now. And I do think that this year there's going to be a lot more people purchasing them because they really are really interesting looking animals. They blend into their environment super well, and they have this camouflage that just beats all other geckos that I've ever seen out there. One of the other things that I find very interesting about these guys, since I actually do personally own 4 of them, is that their personalities are all very different, but their prey drives are all very the same. They have a very high prey drive, and they are very welcoming. When you open their enclosure and go check them out, they will tend to look at you, come towards you, probably because they're interested in food, but they're very interesting little guys. Their care is actually very easy. They eat all sorts of different insects. I feed mine crickets and dubia roaches. You do have to keep their humidity high, which does require misting at least twice a day. And they're not necessarily the most handleable. I just wouldn't handle them often. The females do require a leaf pile of sorts so that they can actually lay their eggs into. They don't necessarily bury their eggs in dirt, but they will bury them in a loose pile of leaves, usually that I put in the corner of the enclosure and have no leaves anywhere else, just so that they can go to that one spot, and then I can kind of rifle through that and see if there's any eggs that they've left for me. And lastly brings us to number 1. We believe number 1 is going to be Urmastics. Me personally absolutely love the ornate Urmastics, but there is a couple other kinds out there, other different localities that are absolutely gorgeous. With Urmastics, the males do tend to be the prettier of the ones, but I think that pet trade-wise, they're very similar to a bearded dragon in size and a little bit in care. With the Urmastics, they do require a big enclosure, moderately sized at least, with very high heat as well. But they do really like vegetables and greens, so that makes them a little bit entertaining for keeping because you don't necessarily have to have bugs for them. Unfortunately, they're a little bit hard to breed in captivity, so there's not as many available, and the ones that are available tend to be wild caught. So I think if we can just lock down getting breeding and potentially breeding for certain colors and stuff like that, I think this might be the year that they start increasing in value, abundancy, and sales. Thank you for joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. In the comments below, please let us know if you think that our 5 are similar to your 5. If not, which ones do you guys think we're missing? Don't forget to like and subscribe, because next episode we're going to be going over the top 5 reptiles that we think are actually going to be going down in the market. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.